All right, let's talk about what AVMs know and what they don't know. Well, first off, an AVM doesn't know circumstances. You know, when you're selling real estate, there's a lot that goes into real estate pricing. You know, it could be a divorce, a job transfer. You know, there's 100 different things or more probably that can influence the sales price. And then you've got those situations where there's a house in that neighborhood that everybody loves. And if they ever decide to sell that house, we're going to pay whatever it takes. And they can sell their house above the market. You know, there's human emotions that go into buying and selling real estate. And AVMs, another thing they don't do is one thing that we always kind of do at my office. When we go into a house to do an inspection, one of the first things we do, we walk in the door and we go, ah. And then we look at each other and say, okay, you know, there's somebody that used to smoke that lives in here. There's 2 cats, there's a dog, you know, there's a plumbing problem, you know, whatever the case may be, whether good or bad, we go in and do the smell test. It's almost like a game we play, you know, to smell and then see what we find out to see if we were right on there. But appraisers doing inspections are things an AVM will never be able to do. They don't know the circumstances. And no matter what you can see online, it's not the same as walking around that house and seeing what you can see from the backyard, you know, that's 3 houses away. Is there a junk car lot, or, you know, what is around that house or what's in the house? No matter how many pictures you get, it's just not the same as doing an on-person inspection. But you know, an AVM is always going to make assumptions. They're assuming the condition. They don't know if the house has new appliances, new carpet, new hardwoods, a new master bath, and little things like, let's say you got a 1960s house that's been totally renovated and then it looks really good. Well, when you go in that master bathroom, that great looking bathroom, you know, is about 8 by 6. Compared with today's bathroom that's huge. You know, these walk-in showers are bigger than the old bathrooms at all. Well, that's a functional obsolescence problem. But you know, the AVM has no idea about the size of the bathrooms or, you know, so many things that impact value. They will never know circumstances. They'll never know the smell test. They'll never know things like bathrooms and basements. And there's just so many things that a computer will never know. We have this new product that everybody is talking a lot about, that they can have somebody other than an appraiser go out, set a camera in different positions in this room, and take videos of the house, and it does the measurements. It does the interior measurements, and then it adds the width of exterior walls. They say it finds empty cavities in the wall. You know, it can do a perfect job. And some of them are touting that it can even save appraisers up to 50% of their time by having this video. Guess what? I'm sorry. That ain't happening. If you're going to spend that much time looking at videos of this house, you could have done the inspection yourself just as fast, and you'll have better information by doing it in person. You can even do the smell test if you want to. But no matter how good these new tools get, this technology, it's never going to be the same as an in-person inspection. Now, think about this just a second. What about these great new technology tools that we have if we used them in MLS? What about if we had this great information and these measurements in MLS? Let's move it from the appraisal process and put it in the MLS system so that we have better information going in. You know, it's the old, what is it, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. You know, sometimes MLS can be really dangerous, and you have just enough information to be dangerous. And so we've got this new technology, but everybody wants to put it in the appraisal business instead of in the real estate industry and in the information in MLS. Having this information in all listings, while I don't ever think they're going to be, the measurements are going to be as accurate as an appraiser going out and doing the measurements from the exterior. However, they would be so much better than what the tax records have. It would just change our information, our big data. It would make it so much better if that information came from MLS and we quit trying to reform appraisers and the appraisal process and look at the real estate process and what goes into information, at the beginning of this process instead of at the end. But just remember that AVMs will never know circumstances, no matter how much technology we come up with. There's so many things that as long as human beings buy and sell houses, there are going to be things that a living, breathing person needs to know about or find out about or, discover in the process that a computer will never be able to do. AVMs sound too good to be true, and like the latest diet pill at 4 o'clock in the morning, chances are it is too good to be true.